Welcome back to Echo Ridge and another episode here in our Captain of Industry series, where our oil barge has just returned from getting another fresh stock of oil. Not that it was too big of a deal. Our first tank was empty, as was our second, but our third and fourth were pretty much full, which means we are not using too much oil that the oil barge can't keep up with in our deliveries. You remember in our last episode, we started prioritizing the input of oil from the oil barge. And we can see that because all the oil is coming in through this pipe here into these wonderful tanks. Now, it's not a perfect system because the pipes can only transfer a maximum of 60 barrels per minute, whereas it looks like our actual rate is 56. Not sure what the discrepancy is all about, but that's not too big of a deal. But remember, we have two separate diesel industries because, well, I sort of overcompensated when we were running low. So I'm thinking about reducing this level here. This is a lot of labor. There's 4 in the boiler, 6 in distillation stage 1, and 8 in distillation stage 2. So if nothing else but for science, I am going to disconnect these and we'll see how our diesel situation fares. I suspect it's going to do just fine. Having to be very careful with some of these deconstructs though. This is going to be a lot of great materials coming back too. These were not cheap to build. And during the deconstruction, I of course end up deconstructing some stuff that I'm not supposed to, but it's going to be fine. I do wish when you ended up reconstructing pipes, it didn't always add the scaffolding, because that looked kind of jank. Maybe it'll fix it once they build it? No, sadly, we are stuck with what looks like some horrible construction job. I think I can fix it by deconstructing more, waiting for those to deconstruct, and then I'll rebuild the pipes. Okay, that's a little bit better. I'm gonna call it a win. And since I'm deconstructing that second diesel production, I can also get rid of these. That'll save one worker and 80 kilowatts per machine, which, by the way, the developers posted a new update, and one of the changes that I appreciated the most, because it taught me something, is the fact that now it shows the power usage of your conveyor lines. So you can see this stretch right here. If I move some UI out of the way, this stretch requires 7 kilowatts. And then you can click on a different stretch and it shows you how much power they produce. Just something to keep in mind as we're building up. Not that we have any issue with power whatsoever. So what are we going to end up doing today? I think what we're going to end up doing is just chugging along down on the research line, having to stop every once in a while to improve some things. For instance, the research lab 2 is going to require paper in addition to glass, in addition to regular lab equipment to make lab equipment 2. So we'll end up hitting the roadblock of having to get paper, which I have no idea how to do yet, but there's a convenient recipe here, chemical plant and paper. But before we start that, I'd figured I'd go back here and get the rest of the research that we may have skipped, starting with blueprints and then advanced logistical control, which is going to increase our vehicle capacity by 30 and add some custom routes. In anticipation for expanding our research, I may want to move this setup here. While we are chugging along, already at 86% of blueprints, it is an earlier tech, so it doesn't take quite as long. You can see we're going to be butting up against our housing area. I'd love to go over here, but as you can see, we're still leveling. Speaking of leveling, I did extend where we could dump. Since our seaport is nearing its completion, I added a little road that we'll end up taking to get over to this island. This island is going to be interesting because it has oil, sand, limestone, and I believe this is quartz. I don't even know what we're going to be doing with quartz quite yet, but I'm sure we'll find a use for it eventually. But there is something very therapeutic about watching all the trucks just continue to make more land. I wonder how big this landmass is going to be once we relocate all the dirt and the whole thing is completely flat. Ooh, what's on this island? Well, there's some colors I don't recognize. Looks like one of them is gold. There's also a pretty significant source of what's called bauxite. I have no idea what it is yet. And some small deposits of titanium. What is this color in here, though? I see how the way it works. There's a little bit of titanium there, but the majority is going to be gold. Maybe I should start pushing on through here. Unfortunately, there's still quite a bit of limestone in the way and a bunch of mess here, which then sort of tells you that you don't want to start throwing this limestone in the ocean, so we might have to start using some of the stackers and making massive piles of some of the resources that we're just trying to move out of the way. Question is, where do we put it? We're not necessarily running out of space, but the space that we have that is flat is somewhat limited. Like if I dumped it all here, that'd be all good, but eventually we'd have the problem sitting here. So maybe this is going to end up being a dump site. So why don't we set up a new mine control tower? I'll set it back, say here. I'm going to edit that area to be something large. We'll say over here, over there. Luckily, all of our diesel looks to be on flat land. Additionally, I also want to be able to get rid of all these trees. So I will mark those for chopping. And since it doesn't look like we're going to need the oil over here, I will bring these guys back, right-clicking to remove those tree removals. All right, it's a start. But now I got to figure out something to do with all those trees. As you can see, we have a warehouse full of logs. Even our trading dock has a bunch of concrete in it. Let's see if we can find a new trading partner. I'm going to select this unknown location and click explore. Our ship will take off and go. And I'll do a little bit of brief exploration in the background. That way we can find more than just this one settlement to trade with. For temporaries, though, I will get rid of some of our logs and get some iron scrap. Notice the more that we trade with them, the higher the price for the same amount of iron scrap gets. We're now paying 79 logs for 48 scrap. But then again, I am about to set up a paper industry. Maybe I shouldn't have gotten rid of all those logs? We finished up those 2 pieces of research and we received a new tutorial on assigning routes for trucks. For instance, what might come useful immediately is we can set a mine control tower to be assigned to export products to a specific ore sorter or storage unit. We can also specify at the fuel station where excavators should be refueled. I don't think we're going to be using this too much, but it might come in handy when we start putting down some stackers, because we want to make sure that all the excess limestone is heading over to the appropriate stacker. We did explore the area. We found some loot. That sounds great. We're going to go on to the next place and explore. And the further I end up exploring out, we may need the addition of some weapons and armor. So I'm going to queue both of those up. We also have pipes too, which I suppose allows the transferring of a lot more. For instance, in our old diesel setup where we're hitting a maximum throughput and thus a bottleneck on the crude oil. So I will also add that to the queue. Speaking of which, I am happy to report that our diesel is doing just fine. We can see that our total quantity hasn't really fluctuated since we removed the second diesel factory. Our ship is heading back and it did find a friendly settlement, which is great because now we can trade with 2 people and they have a lot more contracts available, which requires assigning a cargo depot for the trade route. I don't see anything here that wets my whistle. Oh my goodness. Consumer electronics for chicken carcasses? That doesn't seem like a fair trade. But if anybody out there is up for it, I am more than willing to send some fresh fried chicken in exchange for a 50/90. In addition to the contracts, there are some quick trade offers, but sadly they do not care or need my wood. Your loss. Our ship is returning because it did need to refuel. The question is, while it's home, can I get this guy switched over to heavy oil as well? Or is that just the cargo ship? It looks like it's just the cargo ships. The standard ship has to take diesel. Granted, it doesn't take very much. Back to the task at hand, we're at 71 trucks out of 110 now as our max capacity. And this mine control tower is going to need some excavators to start leveling this area, which we can start by doing something like this. And then I'll continue it over here. Oh, this is going to be glorious. And the plan for this area is we're going to set up a bunch of stackers so that our copper mining, iron mining, and our limestone have a place to put the excess. Because as you can see, at a lot of these mining sites, our excavators are just sort of stuck waiting. And that's because we're sitting with storage that's full or sorting plants that are full. And here's our new route menus at the mine control tower. Very interesting. Well, let's go ahead and queue up a couple more excavators. I'll put 4 excavators and 8 more trucks. Those will take a little bit to create, but once they do, then we'll assign them to our new Diggy Dig site. We do have enough workers. In the background, I had upgraded this housing site here. And as you can see, we still have capacity for another 42 pop to move in. This research is taking a lot longer. You can see that ship weapons requires 252 research, whereas something like blueprints, I can't see the total on it, but if we go over to edicts, only requires 54, so the assumption is blueprints took even less. So now I'm curious, what's something way over here gonna cost? Recycling edict 5, 27,000 research. Asteroid boosters are only 23,000. You're telling me we can learn how to build space probes for 19,000, but something like a recycling edict takes 27,000? The math ain't math in there. Our oil barge is taking off again, so I've been checking to see how much oil we have, and it looks like we were still pretty healthy. Once again, the last two modules still had oil left in them, which is great because we're not tapping into any of the oil in the ground, at least at this site. As you can see, there's not much left. In fact, we're down to under 11,000 barrels. Our first of the excavators have come out. Granted, it looks like all of these trucks are going to take in-game years to create. Can't wait to unlock the Vehicle Depot 3 so we can do this a little bit faster. Maybe I should have two of these. One to build excavators and one to build pickup trucks. It only takes 120 construction parts, but granted it'll take 10 more people. Yeah, let's do it. And I will cancel, let's say, 5 of these trucks. And I keep getting that we don't have enough storage for potatoes, so I think I'm going to add a couple more food markets over here. We'll make them conveniently located for all the people that live over here. Not that I think that matters in-game. Here comes Oil Bob now. In fact, let's just go ahead and change the name of this barge to Oil Bob. I don't know where that came from. It just sort of stuck. We finished the research on the ship's guns, and now it says we have an upgrade available at the ship designer. I can put guns on the front, which will require iron and mechanical parts, increase our hit points, the amount of crew required. It'll give us some damage output, and thus improving our overall battle score. I'll even put some guns on the rear. It's going to require a total of 360 iron and 80 mechanical parts. That's pretty cheap. I should have done this before. I'll click continue, and we're preparing all of our modifications. Our ship guns were complete. Look at us. We now have our own offensive capability to our navy. I can't wait to see how it looks when we add the armor, which is still being researched because it takes 288 research costs. I'm complaining about it. Meanwhile, ship weapons 2 requires 1.2k. Ooh, fuel upgrade. What does this mean? Extra fuel tank. That makes sense. A new ship bridge? A better radar for area explorations? Oh, who am I kidding? We go up to ship weapons 3 over here. One thing that I've come to appreciate with the UI is you can see with the change of materials a color change. I believe it goes into red when we have an unexpected loss of materials, which can sort of highlight to you, I might need to check on this if I didn't expect to lose those materials. I know I've queued up quite a bit as far as getting new vehicles. In addition, we've been churning out more research, which is going to require more mechanical parts and electronics, which of course is the reason why we're losing so many materials across the board. But so far, our buffering system and our industry seems to be keeping up. One thing I'm going to be looking forward to is when we have that stacker for the limestone is getting rid of this limestone stuck in the cargo portion of our dock. There's also construction parts and copper. I can help the copper out by flipping this over to trucks can import cargo. I'll do that on both. Same goes on the assembly 2 for the construction parts 1. Because right now, as it stands, our ship can't offload any of the cargo. Ooh, armor is done. Let's go upgrade, do some armor. I want some armor plating. Increases our battle score. And I can also do armor plating down here. I'm going to require 400 iron. This is going to hurt. Our second trade village, I wish I could name these trade villages just to be able to differentiate them. Doesn't have any available iron other than steel to iron, and I don't like that because it takes iron to create steel. Our first village doesn't have any trade offers, but it looks like I can donate to increase the reputation. I'm going to do this and see what kind of new trade offers it unlocks. That it's awaiting materials for delivery. And here I can see that it says load ship, and then I would have to manually drop those off, which sort of makes sense. Even though the warehouses at the dock were full, I was still able to load up those construction parts. So as soon as we finish the upgrade with the ship armor, I'll end up sending those construction parts too. And oh my goodness, look at our iron. All of our excavators are done though, so I can assign some here. Add 8 trucks, and they will start leveling it. The only place they have to dump is going to be way over here. I'd like to start leveling this area, but I need this area to be level so I can drop off all the limestone. Because as you can see, there's not much room for me to level until I get rid of this limestone. It would have been really nice if I had more excess iron in reserve. I'm not too worried about the impact further down the lines, considering all of these warehouses were full before we drained our entire iron supply. So maintenance should not take too big of an impact. Of course, I say that, but we're already down to 0 mechanical parts. When are we going to unlock Unit Storage 3? Because for some of those core components, it would be very nice to have. I suppose I'll use the search prompt. There's Storage 2, Storage Large. There's Unit Storage 3, right after Research Lab 2's. So this will be the first of, I suppose we can call it the 3rd tier of research. I did end up making the steel for iron trade because it was going to take quite a long time. Since all the iron immediately empties and goes towards these factories, we would have to wait for this whole system to back up again before we got surplus iron that we could then drop off to upgrade the ship. The ship armor has been upgraded, although I can't really tell. I'm guessing the hull's armor is new. It looks like a different color, but I can't recall. I'm sure I'll see it in editing, but with all the upgrades complete, I can now deliver that supply of construction parts 2 to the settlement. There goes our ship. That is still not named. And oh my goodness, our maintenance took much more of an impact than I was expecting. I'm going to need more iron storage before I upgrade that ship again in the future. Parts are starting to come in, but right now it's not enough to keep up with the maintenance requirement. I'm sure it'll be okay here in just a few minutes. Please no death spirals. Why are all of our vehicles extremely busy now? We didn't do that much. I mean, we still have 309 iron sitting in the cargo. I need to click the keep empty button on this. That might help load up the iron into the warehouses. Well, as soon as the trucks get done being extremely busy. And I don't want to make any more trucks because we're down to 540 diesel. Mental note, upgrade slower next time. The reputation has been increased at the first settlement. And is it just me, but I don't see any new trade offers. Once again, I'm sure I'll notice the difference in post. But since we're out here, let's go ahead and explore this region. Maybe they'll find some more goodies to get us out of this jam. The ship is almost finished exploring the area. Survey says some copper, vehicle parts, rubber, and iron scrap. And we did discover a damaged cargo ship and a technology. Cargo ship technology? I suppose we already have this one. I can't remember where we discovered it the first time, probably up here. But this just gives you an alternate place to discover it. And that way it makes sure that you've unlocked the tech once you've found a cargo ship. Repairing this will cost another 240 iron. I'm not about that life, at least not yet. Plus, we don't even need a second cargo ship. Even though Oil Bob has been making some steady trips, once we find out that the amount of oil that the one cargo ship can bring back, we'll either upgrade this one or just add another cargo ship to the fleet, bringing in more oil. I'm excited to find out how many renewable resources are here on the world map. Just the oil one itself contains 1 million barrels of oil, of which we've only used, 15,000? At our current usage, we have 1,368 years left. Maintenance is getting back up there. Diesel is not, though. Why did diesel suffer so much? It can't be just the creation of 12 more vehicles. I refuse to believe that, because I don't think we're that close to being at our maximum. If we look at our total production line, you can see spikes in the consumption, but our total consumption is averaging about the amount of our production. So I'm gonna have to be a little bit more careful until we improve the diesel. Maybe I should not have deconstructed the entire second diesel plant, but with the iron production sort of settled up, I'm gonna continue through some of these earlier researches. Growth pause, eviction, food saver, and farming boost 1. We're going to gain from edicts 1, and then I'll grab tree planting. Oh, that is super cool. We're going to be able to plant trees. Not going to do it for a while though, because trees are the enemy. I suppose in the interim, while we're digging out this whole site, we can practice with the stackers right here. If we take a look at the ore sorting plant, you can see we're not sorting anything in D. So if I select limestone, now we'll have limestone also coming out of here, which if I was going to put a stacker here, it's sort of in the way. There's not a lot of room here, but I would also like to use one of these U-shaped balancers. The limestone prefers to go to industries that requires it, and then the excess goes elsewhere. But this area here looks like it's a lot better, so I'm going to build a new ore sorter. I'm not actually going to send it out the second port though. I can deconstruct this one. It'll take a while to move all those materials around for sure. And I'm going to put a U-shaped balancer right... I think this is clean enough. Limestone's going to come in and then go out to two different directions. First is going to be the limestone storage here, and I'm going to select priority on it. And then I'm going to start stacking right here. Now before I connect those lines, I'm going to build a nice wall around this area. That way the limestone doesn't fill into all these areas. I think that's the way you use these retaining walls. I have a feeling this is not going to be a big enough spot, but YOLO. And then I'm using Control C, which seems to be a much faster way of doing this. And here comes the concrete for our retaining walls. And if it does spill over, well, that's going to be okay because it'll spill in this direction. And oh my goodness, we're out of diesel. And we're starting to get the not enough fuel to refuel a vehicle. Off to the trading with the village. I can get some diesel for coal. I have 2,200 coal, so let's try to get our surpluses up. That's definitely going to crush our coal, but that's a future me problem. And until this gets situated, let me pause this control tower and even this one. That's over 30 trucks that are no longer going to be working, so that should help our diesel get back to a manageable situation. Oh, look at our wonderful little buffer area for limestone. I don't even know how I'm going to get limestone out of there. I suppose when the time's right, I just set a mining designation so they'll come grab it from here. That's definitely not a big spot, but it's what we're going to go with. And then all I have to do is connect the balancer to the stacker, and we should have some limestone dropping off in here, which is going to be great because they'll continue to remove this mountain. Here comes all that beautiful limestone, picking dirt up and setting it down. Oh, doesn't that just look amazing? And I just realized, what happens if these retaining walls are not tall enough? Are they just going to spill over? Yeah, that pile is getting big pretty quickly. Notice, though, that the balancer is working as we had planned. Hence, you see some gaps going towards the stacker as our limestone industries pull from it. Well, diesel's heading back up. Granted, we're not doing much mining right now. I want to wait until it gets back to full and we sort of stabilized. As you can see, maintenance is back up to snuff, which is good, but I think that's going to be enough chaos for 1 week, and I'm pretty sure by the time I record next episode, I'm going to need to build another diesel industry and figure out how to use stackers, because I don't think those walls are going to hold. I hope you enjoyed this episode and continue to enjoy this series. I'm looking forward to reading your comments down below. So until next time, much love, happy gaming, and I'll talk to you soon.